and I'm Rudy Munguia, the Lions Club president. And thank you all for joining us this day. And we are being hosted today. Our Zoom procedures, I should say, are hosted by Lion Mark. So would you tell us a little bit about the procedures, please, Mark?
Yes, the procedures are like usual. If you're not speaking, we ask that you mute yourself so that background noise doesn't get in, like barking dogs and things like that. Yes, so just that's the main thing. Please carry on.
All right, good. So we'll have everybody practice that right now. If you will mute yourselves or just check that you're muted. I will lead the Pledge of Allegiance. So as you are able, would you please stand? And Mark will put the words up on the screen and we will recite the pledge in just a moment.
David, can you stay there?
Okay, there we go. Okay, let's recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the pledge to the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Yeehaw!
Yeehaw!
All right. Thank you. All right. Well, again, welcome to everyone. It's always fun to have Thursday come around for our Lions Club meeting. And today, I think we have some special treats for everyone that you'll enjoy. Let me make some announcements. And I'd like to ask, first of all, concerning the poll results that our Lion Mac Ragsdale is doing for us and started last week. So Mac, if you are there, would you tell us some where we are with our poll results, please?
Yeah, thanks, Rudy. I'm going to attempt to share this on the screen here. Can everybody see that?
Not yet. At the bottom, down at the bottom, you see the green share screen button.
Yeah, and maybe it's this one. Can you see that?
Now click on OK or next.
Huh? No. Well, let me see.
You should bring up a window with all your screens and now click on the share button.
Oh, okay.
The blue share button.
Did that go?
We still don't see it.
Okay, so I share screen and I've got it on screen too. And then what?
Take 3 steps back and punt.
When you click on the share screen, you should see a white window with all of your windows on your computer. And you should see the one that has your whatever it is you want to whatever you want to share.
Oh, okay, there it is.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
All right. So you see that? Everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, so these are the poll results. And so as you can see, overwhelmingly, people would be comfortable meeting socially. So some 90% said that they would like to meet socially in an outdoor venue, and 10% were not sure. And also, would you prefer what would be a preferred day or time? And that would be, some 60% there, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4:30 to 6:30. So, so that the results are in, and the committee has talked about this. We're looking into venues, and next week on May 18th is when the city will be issuing their new guidelines. So at that point, we will know, what stage we're in. Right now, we're in stage 3, we're thinking that they'll go to stage 2, which would make things a lot easier and more comfortable for us. So I think probably next week or so, we'd be ready to announce a little social venue. We're also talking about meeting in person. That's somewhat more complicated because it involves not just, you know, the venue, whether it's TSBVI or Rudy's or anything else. And it has to involve also the speakers. The speakers have to be on board, and it also involves technology. So there's a lot going on there, but we're working on that. We'll let you know how that progresses. So let's see.
All right.
How do I unshare here? Just turn it off.
Up at the top there, you should see an unshare button.
Written color.
Here, I'll just take it off,
Okay.
I think.
I'll just take it off.
Mark.
Hastings.
Stop participant sharing. There we go. Okay.
Okay.
Mark, can you mute people that are unmuted, please? Otherwise, the recording is going to jump all over. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Okay, well, Mac, thank you very much. Did we give you enough time for your report? He may have gotten muted. Well, we're gonna move on, but thank you
Okay,
very
yes,
much.
the report, that's the report. I'm done. Thank you.
All right, good, thank you. Thank you to you and to your committee for that good work. And we look forward to see how things develop next week and shortly thereafter. All right, moving on. I want to thank a couple of Lions that represented our Lions Club last Saturday in the community vision screening that was held at Mendez Middle School. Lion Sam Reese and Lion Robert Watson were there doing the vision screening with the camera, and Sam, I believe, told me he had there were something like 30 or 35 people that were screened in the community. It's not only the kids, you know, that's divided up into 2 parts, and on weekends the community takes priority. So thank you to Sam and thank you to Robert for representing our club and doing the vision screening there at Mendez last Saturday. Another Lion I want to thank is Lion Ann Ward. I hope you received this week through the email a portion of the district newsletter, and collects and sends in that information on behalf of our Lions Club to the district. And so that newsletter came out this past week. We excerpted the portion that applies to our Lions Club. And so I hope you enjoyed those photos as well as the excellent write-up from Ann. So thank you, Ann, for that. And now I'm going to ask help from Mark to show this next visual. I'm not as competent on the share screen, so I totally depend on Mark to do that. But I want to thank all of our Lions that are actively helping us recruit new members. And this visual shows that we have applications from those that are shown there on the list. We're delighted to have this number of people interested in joining, that they are filling out their applications. And I want to encourage the sponsors that are shown by each name to follow up and see that the application is completed and mailed in to the address shown on the application, which is our Lions Club post office address. So thank you very much. I want to recognize Lion Chuck and Lion Sid for helping with Kit Thompson and Susie Gallagher. Greg Dew, his wife, Nanette Dew, is completing the application. Tommy Cowan went out and recruited a teacher that was at one of the schools that where we participated with the appreciation lunch. And so Sally Ramirez will be joining our club soon. I was able to visit with Mary Lou Clayton, a former principal that we worked together once upon a time in AISD. So Mary Lou is completing her application. And then Ofelia Zapata, who spoke to our Lions Club a couple or 3 weeks ago and has expressed interest and is completing her application. And thank you to Roberto Martinez sponsoring that new person to be a Lion. So thank you to each of you. Let me encourage you that we still have a few more weeks where the LCI is waiving the $35 fee that they normally will have. And so we have about 4, 5, or 6 weeks before the June 30th deadline on that. So all these that you see here are entering without having to worry about that LCI fee. All right, thank you very much, Mark, for that. And so we're going to move on, and birthdays this week. We have one birthday on May the 16th, and that's, let's see, Siva. I don't know if Siva is on now, but we certainly extend our best of birthday greetings to Siva for May the 16th. And so we're moving on in our agenda, and Patty, is your guest, are they on yet?
Kalia is here. I see Kalia in the picture. Is your mom here, Kalia?
Yes.
Okay. Your mom is not pictured, but but you look very nice in your environment there.
Why, thank you.
So Rudy, would you like me to introduce?
Yes, yeah,
Kalia
thank you.
while
Yeah,
she's here?
let me just add a brief word before I turn it over to you. We have a very special guest today, and Patty will be doing some introductions and some more background information. But this is through the Greenway project. Some of you may be familiar with the Greenway Waterloo project that is helping to make the downtown area more environmentally friendly and more attractive. We've had a meeting on this maybe a year or 2 years back here at our Lions Club and got a little bit of a preview, but now it is underway. And so with that, they had a contest to see if they could get elementary age children involved. So with that, let me just now ask Patty to take it from there and make your introductions, please.
Okay. Kalia Taylor is a 5th grade student at Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And she and her classmates, along with about 100 other AISD students, submitted a story to the Waller Creek Monster Writing Contest. And her classmates in 6th grade came in first place. Oscar came in first. JT came in as a runner-up, but Kalia won overall. And Kalia, can you read your story to us?
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Kalia, and I go to TSBVI, and my creek monster is from Neptune, and it got sent down here to help clean up the creek, and it devours the litter with its razor sharp teeth. And I actually made a monster to feel so that anyone who cannot see or who can see, everyone can enjoy it. And I made a 5 senses board. And my creek monster has a blue tongue that hangs out like a dog. And it has feathers on the tail.
So Kalia's story is quite long and it takes a long time to read. So she was just going to kind of do a little bit of a summary of what the story was about. And originally, when they were given the task to write a story about the creek monster, they also had a requirement or that they would like the children to do a illustration. And so when we were getting prepared to write the story, Kalia was a little bit worried that she was going to have to draw this monster. And so she was like, what am I going to do? How am I going to draw a monster? I don't know. And I said, well, don't worry about that part. Just write the story and figure out, how you want your monster to be. And once she decided the story and what she wanted the monster to look like and what she wanted it to do, she said she would actually like to create a monster that anybody could enjoy. If you can't hear, you can still see it. If you can't see, you can still feel it. And there's many different elements to the monster. So she paper mached the body of the monster to create the body. And then she put scales on it so that you can actually feel it feels like a lizard. Mm-hmm. And then a tongue that hangs out. And the eyes and the tail, she had what was it? A fish for a while.
Yes,
the
fighting fish and a mermaid.
Yes, that had a tail that was explained to her like that. So she decided that she would like to make a tail like that and piece all these different elements together. And she wanted it to not be a boy monster, but a girl monster. So she wanted it to have really long eyelashes. And anyway, she created the monster, and she also did. Do you want to tell them about your 5 senses board?
Yes, I did an amazing 5 senses board. I had something you can smell. It smells like citrus. And I had a little piece of the skin on there so you could feel. And taste, I had some seaweed on there. And sight, you can see the skin and all of the things. And hear was a hard one. We were trying to figure out how can we hear the creek monster. So we decided there's these little fizzy tablet things that when you put them in water, you can hear it bubbling up like the creek monster when music is on, and it smells like citrus. So we thought that was a perfect idea for here.
And so this way now all of her classmates and everybody can enjoy the monster and feel it and check it out. And it's an experience for anybody. And actually the Waller Creek has asked if they can keep the monster there for a while because they love it so much. And Kalia was like, "Do I get my monster back?" And they were like, "Yes, eventually, but we're going to keep it for a while." And so they are actually going to use it for something they're not sure what, but maybe when they reopen to do some sort of an art exhibit or something.
Well, let me interrupt just for a moment and congratulate Kalia on this wonderful recognition and wonderful story that we are not having a chance to hear right now, but I've had a chance to read it and others have as well. And it is wonderful. And to know that of all the elementary students, the over 100 that entered, this would be up through 5th grade. One was selected as the best one, and we are looking at her right now on the screen. So Leah, congratulations. So, and Mom, thank you for joining us as well and allowing this time for Kalia to join us. And we as a Lions Club congratulate you and Kalia and wish you the very best as as she continues her very creative ways in story writing.
Thank you so much for having us on here and being able to celebrate her win. And she's really, really proud because she worked really hard and she kept asking me, Mom, do you think I'm gonna win? Do you think I'm gonna win? And I said, yes. And she said, you're my mom. Of course you're gonna tell me that.
She's like, for one, why'd you ask me?
Yeah. And so when she actually won, she's very, very, very excited to hear that it's not just Mom saying that she won.
Well, thank you very much. I'm going to take the liberty. I have the story. I'm going to take the liberty. It is a short story, but I'll just read the first paragraph to give our Lions Club members an idea of what a great imagination and how creative this young 5th grade person is, even with limited vision, and can see perfectly 2020 inside her mind and can come up with these great ideas. So with your permission.
I just wanted to say one more thing, that when we were making the story, she wanted to make sure that the creek monster was also totally blind, because Kalia likes to let people know that she doesn't even have a little bit of vision and that she can still see everything around her without using her eyes, right?
Okay, well, when I read the story, I could see that it was much, you could see a lot better into the world of imagination than I can. So with your permission, I'm just going to read the first paragraph and again, give our Lions Club members an idea how creative this is. And this is a story from Kalia. It says, about 10,000 years ago, the monster came like a shooting star straight down from Neptune, lighting up the sky with a glittery swirl like a cyclone. The monster was speeding so fast when she landed with a giant splash right into Waller Creek. She couldn't believe how warm and beautiful the water was. She was so happy to call this new place her home. There were turtles everywhere, and she felt so welcome and pleased with everything her new home had to offer. So I'll just pause there, and that is just kind of a little sample of the wonderful story that is introduced with this first paragraph. So we'll give a link on how our members can read the rest of the story. So Kalia, I'm afraid we're going to have to get back to our agenda, but thank you again.
So much. Thank you. And we always go to the Lions camp every summer, so thank you for that as well.
Well, wonderful. So she attends our Texas Lions camp, and that's
that was so fun. I wanted to go last year, but we couldn't.
Yes, but it's the only place that I've allowed her out without Mom before, the only camp that I've trusted, and she absolutely loved it. So thank you so much for that.
Well, you're very welcome, and we're delighted she was able to take advantage of that. So Kalia, we're going to leave now, but thank you again. We'll say bye-bye then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Well, that was a little bit of a treat, having a young person as part of the oldest Lions Club in the world is always, a check mark there. So, and Patty, did you want to add anything else?
No, I'm just so pleased that you were able to join the club meeting, and I think that they're already gone.
Yeah.
Gone
All
back
right.
to school right now, but yes, she's delightful.
Well, that was a treat for her to take a break from her class and join us just for that brief moment. So thank you so much. We are needing to get back to our agenda and to our main program today. And so to introduce our program today, we have Lion Drew Sheberly. And so Drew, if you're there, would you introduce our
sir.
program and our speaker, please?
Yes, sir. I think we're very lucky today to have Jo Kathryn join us. She's a major force for good here in this community. And I'm going to keep my introduction short. She's president and CEO of Caritas, and they're in the middle of one of the biggest humanitarian issues that our community has faced. And so I'm excited to hear from her. And then I'll turn it over at the end for question and answer to either Mac or Mark or anyone who wants to help broker the question and answer. So Jo Kathryn, over to you.
Thank you, Drew, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you today. I'm going to share my screen if you'll give me just a second, because I have a slide presentation to use to sort of structure our conversation, and I'm going to go through that, and then at the end give you plenty of time to ask questions. Okay. So some of you probably are familiar with Caritas of Austin, and Caritas of Austin has been in our community since 1964, since 1964. Our mission is to prevent and end homelessness for people in Greater Austin. And our vision is to make homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring in the whole Central Texas area. Our approach is a tailor-made, relationship-based approach. And to explain that a little bit, we have learned over the years that the power, that there's a lot of power in all of our clients who are trying to move from homelessness to housing, to permanent housing, and to be reintegrated into our community, that there's real power in this one-on-one relationship that they have with our very professionally trained staff, folks from a variety of disciplines, the social work discipline you would expect, also other social services disciplines, psychology, criminal justice, many different disciplines we have represented on our staff. And that one-on-one relationship is, the way it works is they engage with our clients in a very intensive way, and especially right at the beginning when a client comes onto our caseload. And the very first approach is to get people connected to housing. That's the very first intervention, because we've come to understand over all of our years of doing this that unless someone has a stable place to call home, it's virtually impossible to address the various issues that our clients have, and to help them reach their goals and help them to move along the continuum of stability and become stable and reintegrated into the community. So we utilize housing first, and then from there, this in the context of this relationship, our case, we call them case managers. These professionals who do the case management. They work in partnership with the client to develop a plan that is as much written by the client as it is by our professional. Every person is different, and every person has their own set of goals, their own set of skills, their strengths that they bring to this. And our professionals do such a good job of teasing that out and really empowering clients to identify their goals and then to put together an array of resources that support those goals. And our results show how effective this approach is. We have in our permanent supportive housing program, this program is, and this intervention is especially designed for people who have been on the street for the longest period of time. These are people who have experienced homelessness for at least 1 year continually or more and have a disabling condition. Those are the two factors that make people eligible for this program. Long-term homelessness plus a disability that is expected to be of long duration. Many of our clients go well beyond, unfortunately, well beyond the 1 year benchmark for homelessness. Many of them have been on homeless for 5 to 20 years. And so this is when we engage with someone that qualifies for this program, they have very severe needs, very high needs. And we have a 97% housing stability rate, meaning 97% of everyone who participates in this program does not return to homelessness. And I didn't get this slide updated with the average days to housing, but we have increased this average, I mean, not increased, it's decreased, which means it's better. Our average days to housing now, which means from the moment they're enrolled to the day they get in, sign a lease for a new apartment, is only 17 days. So we've really improved in the number of days it takes to get someone into housing. Another intervention that is an evidence-based practice like permanent supportive housing is called rapid rehousing. This is an intervention that is designed for people experiencing homelessness for less than a year. And we primarily tap housing in the regular market for people in this that need this intervention. And you can see the success rates. And the way that works is immediately we pay for the housing, and we pay for it for a while until the household can get back on their feet, develop a source of income that will support their housing, and then can take over the rent from there. So this is a shorter term program that works very effectively to get people back into housing pretty quickly, and then to be stable in housing. And you can see that our return to homelessness is only 94%. And that I think that average days to housing is still about the same. It takes much longer to get folks into housing when you're looking in the regular market, which seems counterintuitive, but private landlords a lot of times have a resistance to housing someone who has experienced homelessness. So sometimes it takes some arm twisting and some convincing to get property managers to lease to our clients. So that's why it takes a little bit longer. And then just to show you kind of the big picture economic impact in terms of public cost. I know that the print on this is pretty tiny, so I will tell you what it says. That big number on the left, the 222,000, that is the cost that our community is spending on the most expensive, if you will. This is not a very respectful way to say this, but it's a way that communicates and people understand. The top 250 folks that are experiencing homelessness that are costing our community the most in terms of emergency services. And those emergency services include shelter, law enforcement, criminal justice, ambulance services, emergency and psychiatric care, and incarceration. All of those different public services, which, you know, a person who's experiencing homelessness, they can't pay for it. So our tax dollars are paying for it. It comes to be about $222,000 per person. The average cost, not the top consumers of these services, but just the average cost for Austin is about $95,000 per person per year. This is not a one-time cost. This is an annual cost. So you can see the multiplier. So the longer someone is experiencing homelessness, the more expensive to our community they get. The contrast to this is the number on the right. And in our programs, the average cost per person is $18,896,000 per person per year. So you can see that it's much cheaper, much more economic, and much more humane for our community to really get about the business of getting people into permanent housing. This is the sad news. The sad news is that we have about 3,000 people, 3,000 households on our community-wide waiting list. The Ending Community Homelessness Coalition, which is the umbrella organization that leads the homeless response system across the community, manages and operates this centralized wait list, if you will. It's a common assessment that each household takes, and based on the results of that assessment, people are put in line based on their vulnerability to die on the street. So the way this works is in the practical day-to-day, the way it works is when our organization has an opening on our caseload, the ability to serve another household, whether that's an individual or a family, more than one person in a family, we go to ECHO. We reach out to ECHO, the Ending Community Homelessness Coalition, and we say, okay, who is the next person on the list? And at that moment in time, then we get the next person on the list. If it's, if we have an opening for someone who's experiencing long-term homelessness, because that's who's at the top of the list. And then if we have an opening in that rapid rehousing category for folks that aren't the most vulnerable, then, they'll go to the top of that list. It's sort of a bifurcated list. And then we serve that person. And what we know in our community is that this list doesn't move very fast because we do not have the enough off-ramps for people to leave the list. And here's a really good diagram to show you our current situation. We have many people flowing into homelessness, the inflow, you see the spigot there. And then if you look at the bottom right of the tub and you see the drain, it's not draining fast enough. We don't have enough exits to housing. And so the bathtub is overflowing. We have more people than we have a system to serve. But what we're working on, our desired response system should be that the inflow and the outflow are even, and that the tub isn't overflowing. So it is unrealistic to think that no one will ever experience homelessness again, because we know that there are incidents, there are natural disasters that cause homelessness. It would be wonderful if our economy itself could 100% prevent economic homelessness simply due to lack of affordable housing. But that is a long-term goal as well. Right now, we have gone so long without enough affordable housing that goal is pretty elusive. So there are going to be reasons in the short term for homelessness. And I'm a firm believer that we must be doing prevention right along with intervention. And we must be doing these things at the same time, or we will never get to this status where we have equal, the outflow is equal to the inflow. So we must end homelessness. We can, we must, we will, we must. And I think I have the wrong slide deck because I was hoping to show you a picture of our latest our latest good news. But let me just stop sharing now, and I will send a follow-up to that you can distribute to the Lions Club. But our latest greatest news is that Caritas is about to add some big capacity to our community's ability to address homelessness and to have more affordable housing that can be accessed by people who are experiencing homelessness. We have recently partnered with a developer who specializes in supportive housing. They are based out of Springfield, Missouri, and they have produced many of these properties across the United States. And we're pleased to have them in Austin because their values really align with our values at Caritas in terms of housing people that need housing the most. And we are going to break ground this summer on an apartment community that will be located at 1934 Rutland Drive. It's going to be 171 studio apartments, and it's targeted to people experiencing homelessness. So we will be taking 171 people out of the condition of homelessness and providing permanent housing in an apartment community that will have robust support services on site, so that people can build their well-being and reach their full potential and be stable in housing and not return to homelessness again. So I will stop there and just open it up for questions and discussion.
Okay, if you have a question, well, first of all, thank you very much to our presenter, Joe Kathryn. Thank you so much for that information. And we're going to open it up now for questions. So here we go. If you have a question, would you raise your hand, please, and direct your question?
Gaylord has a question.
First of all, Joe Kathryn, thank you so much for what you do and for coming today. And Drew, thank you for a great program. And my question, I guess, is pretty basic. I've been a volunteer at Caritas, mostly in working on and preparing and serving meals. Mm-hmm. And that is a tremendous service. And the number of people that lineup for the meals that are prepared and provided is amazing. And my question, and I'm glad you mentioned Echo. Ann Howard's a longtime friend of mine, and to hear her stories about how Echo worked and what they did, and it's very interesting to know that they provide you kind of the list and set the priorities, as I understand it, for your housing. But help me understand, I picture the long lineup of those that are there to partake and receive the meals that you prepare. How do they become part of your caseload for housing? I know in your facility there at 7th and Natchez, I see all that you're doing on education as well as housing and of course feeding the homeless, but I'm wondering, how does that person in line to get a meal end up as part of your caseload for housing?
Well, their first step is to take that assessment that I referred to. That's how you get on that community centered list, that community-wide list. And then when your name is, comes up on the list, then there's really nothing for you to do. It's on us to find you. So let's say, you're living under the bridge at 183 and Burnett Road. Well, hopefully we have some clues to the fact that that's where you're living. And when you take the assessment, you're giving that information to the person that you're interacting with when you take the assessment. And so when your name comes up, then we have that information and we go about trying to find you. And then we find you and then we start working with you to get you into housing.
Now, is that assessment done there at your facility at 7th and Natchez, or how?
No, there are other facilities that are conducting those all over different locations, and some of the community care clinics at Salvation Army. It can be done over the phone. There's lots of different ways that people can take it.
Thank you. And I was just add to it. I'm interested because we all have to deal with a lot of government, and Drew, is so great to have you come, and thank you again for doing it. With all that we hear from the city of Austin, how do you coordinate, and do you coordinate in any way with all the housing programs they are having or attempting to have? And how do you coordinate then between Caritas and the role of the city?
Sure. The city, we have, we administer and are a contractor with the city for homeless services. And the sort of newer projects that have been talked about with regard to converting hotels into housing for people experiencing homelessness, we are involved with the city. We're helping guide and provide some technical assistance for the city as well. It's possible, we're actually in contract negotiations right now to operate one of those hotels. So the homeless response system is very engaged with the city of Austin. And the short answer to that question is the city can't do it without the homeless response system. And so there is this sort of public-private partnership, if you will, because the members of the homeless response system, with the exception of Integral Care, which is a quasi-governmental organization, the rest of us are all private nonprofit organizations. So those of us in this space, we are the arms and legs of what it is that the city needs to accomplish in the city to scale up what we need.
Thank you very much.
I think Mac has a question.
I was under the impression that Caritas was affiliated with the Catholic Church. Is that true, or is that not true?
That is not true. It's
Okay.
often a perception, though, because we were founded by a Catholic Monsignor Richard McCabe, and some of you may remember him in the community. But, you know, even he, when he started the organization, established it as a nonpartisan, non-sectarian, nonprofit organization.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, this is Drew. So back in the day, you know, early in my career, I spent about 2 years in San Antonio working with the San Antonio Metropolitan Ministries and their homeless. One of the struggles I have to this day is you do the things you think are important and are humane, and then you have a lot more folks that come as a result of that. What's your thinking on that, if that's clear? What's your thinking?
Well, I think it's important to look at the community-wide data that we collect every year when we do our point in time count of people experiencing homelessness. And there in every, I will say in every community, there is this perception that people experiencing homelessness come from somewhere else. And that is just not borne out in our data. At least 75%, if not 85, I would say it's closer to 85% of the people in our community actually became homeless either in the city limits of Austin or somewhere in Central Texas.
Good data. Wasn't aware of that. Thanks.
Yeah. So it's a good question, and it's not, like I said, it's very, very common perception. Every community has the same perception about itself. And I think some of that is that, honestly, it's really difficult for us to look at this level of suffering, and we don't like to think of ourselves as a community that has that. And so I think there's this maybe immediate reaction to say, oh my gosh, you know, that just can't be. This has to be, this has to be a foreign invader of sorts. But, you know, I really, as difficult as the conversation has been in our community leading up to the vote on Proposition B, the silver lining to all of that is that we are talking about it, despite, you know, the division that we see in the community. I think it's so important for us to acknowledge we have a challenge, but we can come together as a community and solve it together. And in fact, I would say we can't solve it unless we come together.
I saw Sandy, JP, Ann, and Steve. So Sandy, why don't you go first?
Yes, I belong to a group called Mitzvah Knitters, and I was wondering if she needed any hats, scarves, or blankets for her clients. I know we've got a few groups that we give to.
We would love that. That's always needed when the temperature gets cold. Thank you very much. That's so kind.
I will bring that up to the group next time we meet.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
JP?
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you for your very informative presentation as well as your response to the questions. And we wish you the best with the apartment project coming up. That sounds exciting. My question is, do you, and if so, to what extent do you partner or interact with other agencies around, such as, I heard you say ECHO, but the Community First Village that is out in far east Travis County, such as that? Do you interact with them at all or other agencies?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, Caritas is the lead and fiscal agent for a 12-agency collaboration that focuses on preventing and ending homelessness. It's primarily funded through a contract with the city of Austin. And so we work very closely together to serve people that across our community that are vulnerable to housing instability and homelessness. And we work very, very tightly together as a group and have been since 2005. So this is a long-standing collaboration in our community that's super, super effective. And then specifically with regard to Community First is a really excellent source of housing when we're looking for housing for our clients. And so that is the main interaction we have, is to utilize them as a property that's great for our clients. You know, it's not every client that wants to live in that particular kind of setting, because it is a particular kind of setting. But for those who do want to live in that kind of setting, it's a wonderful source of housing because it's very affordable. And we love our partnership with Community First.
And you're next.
Okay. Thank you. My question, you've talked about it just a bit just now about your partnership with the city and the funding that you get, but could you talk about your funding sources and like what's your operating budget and how many people are you able to serve on the budget that you work with now?
Yep. So our budget, just for what Caritas does, I'm going to set aside right now the budget that flows through Caritas to that collaboration. So I'm going to speak just to what we're doing right now without the collaboration in the piece. And so that is about $9.5 million, an annual budget. And our sources of funding are primarily federal and local. We have one tiny little state grant through the Veterans Commission because we have a program for veterans experiencing homelessness. It is primarily funded through the VA and the U.S. Housing and Urban Development. And then our other permanent supportive housing is funded through Housing and Urban Development as well. The federal government provides most of the funding for homelessness. And then the city of Austin in recent years has really gotten in the game and is increasing their investment in interventions for the homeless population.
Steve, either you or your cat.
I know. She's my spokesperson. I thank you for your presentation, Joe, Kathryn. The question I had was with Proposition B, I guess it's back in effect. And forgive me, I live in Cedar Park, so but I'm always in Austin. And I guess the camping ban now is back in effect. Essentially, what's going on. I know there's going to be a graduated approach to enforcement, but has that in the immediate sort of made anything more acute, as if it could be more acute with what you're dealing with? Or to your point of at least, you know, I always say if people are arguing, at least they're talking, right?
Yeah.
So, but I'm curious kind of how that has impacted you folks, if there's a more sort of immediate siege mentality that occurs. So.
You know, immediately it hasn't impacted us. You know, we just keep putting one foot in front of the other and doing our work. And, you know, of course, our focus is to get as many people into housing as we can. So that part hasn't changed, but definitely the environment in which we operate has changed because of this big conversation and the conflict essentially that we're having in the community. The silver lining to that cloud is that I think there are more resources being offered because I think people now, because the conversation has been so loud, people are paying attention. And so we have, while I can't quantify it on this in this meeting today, I know that there are both, you know, there are private entities now coming forward to say, you know, we want to invest in this effort to end homelessness. And the city of Austin has already upped its game quite a bit. But I think they're finding new ways. And one of the things they are focused on is that there's a lot of money for homelessness coming in the American Rescue Plan funds, federal funds that are headed our way very shortly. So those are going to be some of the immediate conversations we will be involved in, is how that money is allocated and prioritized.
Good. Well, glad to hear it. Thank you for.
I saw Norman and Roberto and Rudy. I think that may be all the time we have.
Yeah, I believe we're need to cut it off after those two final questions. So I don't know who you.
Can I ask?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Norman,
go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yes, I find this to be an absolutely marvelous presentation. I find it to be very timely. And I was wondering, you have mentioned the governmental and civic organizations and such that help participate in this program. What can you say? Is there anything that we can do as individuals, or even for that matter, the Lions Club can do to participate and or promote, resolution of the problem to homelessness, and how you're going about satisfying those needs? It seems like the demand is far outreaches the supply, and we certainly don't want to encourage those who don't need it. But what part can we play as individuals or even club members to your organization?
Sure. Well, we have all sorts of volunteer opportunities, and we would love for you to volunteer with Caritas of Austin. And in addition to Caritas, all the other folks, all the other nonprofits that are in this space have volunteer opportunities as well. But of course, I want you to volunteer at Caritas. And then of course, you can always give money. We can always make use of money. And I failed to mention too earlier that the philanthropic community, the foundations like Austin Community Foundation, St. David's Foundation, all of those various foundations are much more engaged, and they are considering what additional investments they can make as well. So to the extent that any of you all have a relationship with those foundations, they're coming to the table as well. But as individuals, just being informed and talking with your friends and getting involved in an organization like Caritas to help us, we welcome your participation. We would love to have you volunteer and or be a donor.
Okay, Roberto?
I'm sorry I missed half of the presentation. I had mechanical problems. But maybe you covered it, but my question is, how you work with those families that for some reason lost one of their breadwinners, either to accident or death or something, and all of a sudden they find themselves homeless. And I'm working through St. Vincent de Paul, and sometimes we run to those cases.
Yes. Yes, we would absolutely serve that family just like we serve anybody else. They would have a case manager. We would get them into housing, and we would help them support that housing until they could support it themselves.
Thank you. You may be doing that already, so I'm glad. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, I'm afraid time has caught up with us. So again, thank you for your presentation, for your kindly taking our questions and providing even more information to our members. So again, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Well, we're going to return to our agenda and bring our meeting to a close. So let's look at next week's program, and I believe Lion Greg, you will have that program. So Greg, would you inform us about that, please?
Sure. Thanks, Rudy. For those of you that were there, you remember a few weeks ago, Lion Beth Slade from Leader Dog Headquarters gave us an overview, the big picture of Leader Dog programs and what's happening there today. And thank you for everybody that participated in the auction that pushed our total contribution for the year for the club up. But are we really making a difference? Next week, we'll hear about Leader Dog from a very different perspective. A fellow Lion, Liz Freiseth, will join us to share her personal story and how leader dog Ellie has made a difference in her life. So we'll look forward to hearing from Liz and hope you can join us.
Thank you, Greg. All right, we look forward to it as well. And with that, we are at the close of our agenda. I want to thank those that participated and were involved in today's program, especially to Line Drew for arranging the program today, and for our speaker, Kathryn Quinn, for our special guests from the Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired, to Kalia and to her mom, and to Patty, to Line Patty Robinson and Line John Niefler for making those arrangements. And then for Mac and his committee that are making the, that are doing the continuous exploring of how we can get back to in-person meetings. So with that, let me also, I've just sent a note to Mark Hastings, and he has agreed to put the full story of Kalia's Neptune visit from the Green Star Monstar on the screen. So if you have a moment and are interested in following up with a wonderful little 5th grade story, or I should say the imagination of a 5th grader, there it is on the screen. So I will leave everyone with that. Thank you again for joining us. And this meeting is adjourned. And there's our story.
Good job.
All right.
Would you like me to print it out, or what would you like?
Yeah, let's print it out.
Mark, can you stop recording, please?
Oh, it's not reprinting. It's not printing.
I was just gonna take a picture.
You would have to do a screen